Welcome to my video, Jodi Arias, convicted felon. Now what? As we are now waiting for a new jury to be put together and rehear the sentencing part of the trial, we have to ask ourselves, what's really going on? Well, right now, after looking at my videos, I'm kind of pleased of the number of responses I received and some of the moods that were posted, but it made me feel like I failed to address the issue of prison conditions or confinement. In other words, the feedback that I was getting is somewhat mixed and confusing to me, because although I received 1,008 likes and 52 dislikes out of 34,372 views, it makes me wonder how the audience perceived my videos, as it was a mixed signal to me, but rather obvious when you read it. I missed my target. The dislikes should have outweighed the likes, because what I wrote was very negative and very cruel. Many talked about the death penalty and solitary confinement conditions. Some even offered additional punishment on top of punishment. Needless to say, I feel that expressing your feelings was a means to express your feelings about Jodi Arias, as many of you are very passionate people. And I understand that, because many of you have probably been victimized yourself. I too could not get over the hundreds of comments thanking me for making him feel better, knowing the kind of suffering that awaits J.A. or Jodi Arias once she gets to Perryville. Although that was one of my elements projected, you missed the main point or message on how cruel and unusual AZ prisons are. Now, by this point, you might turn the video off and say, move on. It's disturbing how many people spoke in terms of we and our, although they weren't family members of the victim. I saw no real connection between their justification and the Alexander family justification, how they would expect to feel that I react in this manner. That I understand without reservations, but I couldn't understand how everybody else injected their own personal vengeance into the situation. I totally respect how the Alexander family feels, and that their loss can never outweigh the incarceration or even the death penalty of Jodi Arias. However, I'm puzzled why so many more people sought punishment on top of punishment to the sentence to be handed out in July. Watching network news coverage, this trial illustrated human deceit and cruelty as J.A. tried to get away with numerous lies she got caught in. Her arrogance, inability to connect with the kind of reality, the stabbing at the victim, not meant to be a pun, but the stabbing of the victim and his family made it resentful to me and apparently to many others, and again, rightfully so. It was a cruel, cruel crime. I was most concerned about her ability to manipulate her situation and manipulation of Joe Arpaio's staff, the press, the court, her attorneys, and the jury. It became a concern to me she had this kind of influence over people. She would be a threat while in prison and kept there for the duration of her sentence when imposed. This was the main emphasis of my video. It was this concern that prompted me to do the videos and nothing more. However, I added a few more and detailed how prison life would be, and added up all my personal experiences and put them in perspective. This was my intent, and it became my challenge to do it accurately. Hence, I feel like maybe I failed doing it accurately. I wrote about solitary confinement and found a level of acceptance of those conditions for J.A. I wrote about solitary confinement and the unbearable conditions of lockdown and how life goes on 24/7. The fact that the cells are roach and rodent infested, I was hinting the fact that scorpions and rattlesnakes do indeed frequent such places, as well as other insects. In other words, everything I wrote was truthful, but the concept didn't get across. I'd like to think most of my viewers actually understood what I was saying, but did nothing to address those issues. It was somewhat despairing that many missed my point, and that this task of awareness missed this point, but I won't go there. I understand that this is a very volatile situation, and the psychology here is driven by anger and hate. Many were so busy getting such a thrill out of how J.A. will suffer and thank me for giving her the real deal. Unfortunately, that's not very satisfying to me, as it is my intent to change these conditions for the prisoners and not just J.A. These men and women are forced to endure conditions no longer appropriate for this millennium and should be changed to conform with modern chronology methods. That is the mission of my video. I feel prison conditions in some of our most notorious prisons must be radically improved, and this includes Perryville. Real people in real life situations, not like in the movies. Being interested on the dark side of human incarceration should also include a conscious awareness that something's not right with the picture. I want you to think, I want you to understand, and I want you to be empathetic about these prison conditions. How would you feel if that was one of your family members going through that? I know that's extreme, but the awareness, something is not right. Jodi Arias' case had the ability to bring out the truth of Arizona prisons that she will soon need to learn and cope with, and to endure. She was tried and convicted and receive an appropriate sentence, whether life or death. I believe that's the justice as we dealt with the complexity and anxiety of this trial. Fascinating as this case is, we must not lose sight or perspective of what lies ahead for her and hundreds of other prisoners. I know you will not read or view a video that's not indicative of self-destruction inside prison. I also know one sentence her popularity will dwindle and HLN will forget her. I found HLN to be off base, with the exception of Nancy Grace. This was all about sociopathic behaviors and a woman named Jodi Arias that could raise their rating. I do hope my readers and viewers of these videos realize that Perryville has been targeted by Amnesty International for its abuses, as well as many of the men's facility. The number of preventable deaths there is astonishing. Take the time to research. Perhaps with this newfound information, change will come without any sensationalism, but by rational and logical efforts through modern penology and reforms. To the Alexander family, I offer my personal condolences and prayers. It's without a doubt the most disturbing event in their lives. To the people supporting the Alexander family, be there with compassion and kindness and give them support they need and ask for. It's the only right thing to do. But those screaming justice is coming, but it has to be in the same context of rule of law, and not the manner Jodi Arias lashed it out. Jodi had her day in court. She will be sentenced. Her sentence will be her punishment. She will endure cruel and unusual conditions. That's her fate and destiny for what she's done. Let us not lose sight of those others serving time that don't deserve what Jodi Arias deserves. It's the right thing to do. And I chose the background picture because Arizona is beautiful. Don't let the beauty of the state come into your heart and darken it. Make us all come together for a common cause to bring humanity, decency, and dignity back into our lives.